The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
I'm Lisa Law. I've traveled the world to seek spiritual knowledge, to visit sacred places, and to find inner peace. Where we go and what we do on our journey is important. So are the people we meet along the way, the ones who support us, inspire us, and help us be more positive. I want you to meet these special people. So welcome to the Sharing Room. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Sharing Room. It's my pleasure to welcome Rich Lannon from Nashua Community Arts. Welcome, Rich. Thanks for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always kind of exciting time right now for the Performing Arts Center and what Nashua Community Arts is all about. So my pleasure to be here.
So why don't you introduce everyone to what the Community Arts is and what it is that you're doing?
Well, Nashua Community Arts is the nonprofit for the Performing Arts Center that is now under construction on Main Street. Mm-hmm. So they're the backbone for the fundraising and for all the coordination as we go forward with the operator, Spectacle Management, with helping them get fundraised so that they can do the proper programming, and we'll be supportive of that for forever for the life of the project.
So the the Nashua Performing Arts Center is on Main Street. For those who don't know about it, it is in the former location of Miller's and then Alex Shoes. And so now anyone going down Main Street will see the construction going on right now. You prepared a PowerPoint presentation. I thought it would be good to walk people through it and show them some pictures. Does that sound?
Yeah, this was one of the many renderings from the architects, and a lot of times renderings are not what the end result will be, but this should be very, very close. This is what it's going to look like as you're coming down East Pearl Street is where this picture is, looking obviously up West Pearl.
Yep.
So basically the new building, as you see it, is where the Alex Shoe building was. That was demolished back in April. And then the back building, which is a slide we'll come to in a few minutes, the four-story building that you'll see today. You'll see all the steel going up where the Alex Shoe was, and the back building, it remains and it will remain. Mm-hmm. That's one of the common questions.
Was that a historic building in the back?
Not historic by historical standards and as far as on the register or anything, but it's an old building, architecturally sound, and a very attractive building that both from an aesthetic, but also from a cost standpoint, they did an analysis and it made a lot of sense to keep because it was good bones, as they say. Yep. And even though the interior was gutted, the exterior is remaining.
So let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about some of the history of how it all came together.
Yeah, again, Nashua Community Arts, we'll come to the pictures in a second. As the slide is saying, we're really looking at Nashua Community Arts was put together by a totally volunteer board back in 2020. After even we had things moving right along before then, and it's a 9-member board right now that's being in the process of being expanded, and we have attorneys and accountants and citizens and business people, so it's a very good diverse board that's going to be again looking over the fundraising process now. And even the ongoing fundraising in the future, because there's always things to do, as we know, with projects like this as we go on, and working very closely with Spectacle Management, who is the operator and the booking, will be booking all the shows.
Yeah, you hired an outside firm to come in and do the booking for the acts and things.
Yes, it was decided early on that we privately or the city does not know how to run this type of facility, and it needed to be run professionally. So very early in the process with our steering committee that was put together back in 2019, they were hired very quickly, right along with the architect and the construction management company. The team was put together, and we could not have asked for a better team. But long after this is built, the contractor and architect obviously be done, and the importance is going to be really the management company, and they're the biggest in New England. They're out of Lexington, Mass. The closest one they do is probably the Lowell Auditorium that people may be familiar with, even though it's a lot bigger. They just took over the brand new theater and that opened up in downtown Laconia this past summer. Well, sorry, winter. Not quite, they have probably 7 or 8 theaters that they run totally and others that they consult with. So we'll be turning the keys over to them literally. They will be operating it, managing it, and doing all the booking as they do with their other theaters.
It's my understanding that it's attractive to people to come into an area and do multiple locations and then move on to the next city. So
Yeah,
it'll
because
be part of a tour of this area, perhaps.
it definitely will. I mean, not everyone will do it, but that size theater that will be attracting, and it'll probably mostly musical, but it's not just musical, but
It's
it'll be a lot of music acts.
750 seats or so, right?
Yeah, so it'll be 750 seats, and the first floor, the orchestra level, is on retractable seating, telescopic seating, as they say, that will literally can be rolled right back into the wall, and you could have a wedding there. The chamber could have the gala there. So
Yep.
even though it's a performing arts center, it's really like an event center. So you could do a lot of different things, or you can have a standing room, say like a rock type show, and it could hold up to 1,000.
Yeah, and it's easy to do, so the turnaround time is going to be pretty quick, is my
We-
understanding.
We could have, again, the chamber could have an event there at lunchtime, and there could be the seats with round tables and chairs, and that same evening could be a country show or a jazz show, whatever, that same evening. They could turn around very quickly.
So let's go to the next slide. So this is what them putting the steel girders in
Yes.
at the front part of the building.
I took that picture just a couple of weeks ago that I thought was a great picture because that's the 4-story building, which we'll see again in probably a few more slides. That's looking out the window of the back 4-story building at 2 of the construction workers putting a beam together, and you'll see the ball kind of above their head, which is the ball from the crane. So it's kind of a cool picture.
That is cool.
So that's what we're involved in right now, is erecting all the steel, is where we are in the project construction.
Here's the next one. Oops, I went too far.
Probably too far. Even a little further back, maybe.
It skipped through. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So one more back?
One more, I think.
How'd that happen? So
I mean,
that's
yeah,
the
that's
street
okay.
elevation.
That's the street elevation, looking at it, obviously going kind of a little bit north. So to the left is Surf, that little part of the one 2-story building is Surf. And then where you get into the Performing Arts Center, that's really where the box office is going to be, where the lights are in the bottom. So there'll be a box office that people could get, tickets, and either a will call or tickets for a future event. There'll be an entrance on the corner of Main and West Pearl on the front, kind of the front corner. And there'll also be a entrance in the back where, down by Fort and Gage in the back of the building, where the back alleyway is, what they call a Garden Street. There'll be a back entrance as well.
So that's where everyone will bring in their equipment and anything that's going to be part of a show. And you just told me in another presentation that it's going to be attractive to people to come to a newer building, and they'll actually it'll help us book things in Nashua, having that renovated and new facility.
Yeah, very true. It's so the back corner, like where the parking lot is, say, to Surf, in that back corner there'll be a loading dock. And one good thing, Spectacle Management, when they came into every single meeting that we had with the steering committee when this was being planned out, from a shoe store to what we're building now, and we constantly look for their collaboration about what they've experienced, because they used to walking into 100-year-old buildings and have to deal with whatever they got, whatever they have for bathrooms, whatever they have for loading docks. It is what it is. Where this is new, we could really customize this. And one thing which was interesting that we learned is they said, as much as the most important thing is the audience experience, you think, but it's the experience of the performer. If it's a pain in the butt for the performer to get in and out,
Yeah.
they can't load and unload, they don't have a place to park their van, the lighting is lousy, it's the experience for them. They're going to say, what a great time, we're in and out of there, the lighting and music was great, the sound system was great, we want to come back.
Yeah,
Book us
that's
for next year.
awesome. Yeah.
So that was interesting part of it that we never thought about. We just thought of have to be comfortable for you and I, but it's got to be comfortable where their dressing rooms are.
And they'll have a better
everything.
performance if they're relaxed and enjoying. You've got good feng shui going in that. So let me see if I could get to the next picture. Okay.
Yeah, so that was in April. So in April, the demolition started, so that's across the street, obviously, at the Mason Building. We've had cameras there. There's a camera at another building at a different angle we have on the roof that we're taking some good pictures. So in April, we had that excavator was taking the first crunches of the building along the street, and we had a pretty good crowd across the street. You know, it was interesting listening to them talking about Miller's. And John
Yeah.
Kutzis, who's the owner of Alex Shoe and owned this property, was talking about it. We asked him if he was going to cry. He said no, and he didn't. But he said, yeah, a lot of memories, and there was a lot of interesting conversations going along in the background. So this is probably mid-April that this was happening, and now, obviously, that whole building is long gone. It was interesting, but it was only about 4 or 5 inches off of the surf building. So they had to be very careful, obviously, for taking care of that building, which is a brand new wall right along the surf wall. And now, after that, construction started in May, and again, they're doing steel, and it's getting towards the end of the steel erection. And they're also in that back building that we'll see another slide coming up,
Harold, do a-
and that brick building in the back. Well, that's a beam that's going to be in the building. So we did have a function not that long ago where all the major donors were invited to come and do a site walk and to learn about what's going on, to see firsthand, and to actually sign the beam. So both sides of that beam is signed by a lot of the donors, and that beam will be up very shortly. It was a little delayed getting that particular beam up. It could be even this week. I'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, nice.
And that beam will be going up into the building for forever.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of cool.
So another thing that people can do is, here's the information about Spectacle.
Yeah, we probably missed a couple of slides. I don't know, it's up to you. And they go through fast.
It's hard to get it to the right place.
Just see if there's like before that, if I can grab one just to explain. Maybe not.
No.
No, that's okay. So Spectacle Management, and if you go to that. So Spectacle Live, and there's a website that people can go to. Spectacle is out of Lexington, Mass. They do all the booking and do the property management like they're going to do here at several. Sometimes they just do the booking for some places, and they just book the shows. But the best example is a Lowell Auditorium, even though it's a much bigger venue. It's the closest. I've been there growing up in Kingsville, Massachusetts. I've been there probably 100 times. It's a great venue. And they run that for the city of Lowell, soup to nuts. And we're going to be doing that here too. So they're going to be in charge of the full operation, management, maintenance, booking the shows. If you do have an event, helping get it set up for, again, a wedding or a gala. And their experience is terrific, and they're at every meeting, every Zoom call for the last 2 years.
So will people be able to buy a season's pass?
Yes, that'll be through Spectacle Management. So, you know, right now you can actually get on their website. You can, if you go to the National Community Arts website, it's nationalcommunityarts.org, and that will talk all about National Community Arts. You can learn about us. You can actually, there'll be a link there to go to the Spectacle Management's website. In there, you can sign up for their emails and their newsletters, and you can find out all of their theaters, but obviously, especially
So-
when Nashua starts booking,
Yeah, that's good.
you'll be able to find out what's going on there.
So I know that there are all different levels of sponsorship to support this from the community. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So when we started with our capital campaign program, even before National Community Arts was established, we had a capital campaign to raise money because part of the arrangement with the city of Nashua is they were, Board of Aldermen, with their support, approved the bond, and we had to raise $4 million privately. All that had to be done by December of 2020, and we did that. So we raised the money, and the city approved the bonds, so we closed, and that's when construction started, as we saw a few minutes ago. But we had, even during that time period, we had over 200 people that had already donated privately of all kinds of amounts, from hundreds of dollars to $250,000 and everything in between. So that went on in 2020, and surprisingly during COVID. I mean, we might have had a little bit of a lapse in the heat of things, but we still had people calling us wanting support. So the response from the community has been unbelievable.
We do have a great community.
They came together, and it wasn't just us out soliciting. A lot of people just called and said, how can we, help? And so we have a lot of different ways. We have all the major donations, which we call major, from 5,000 and up, that are stars on the wall to naming after anything from stairways to bathrooms and a little of everything. We recently announced, which was in the papers, we had an anonymous $1 million donor for the naming rights. We hope to be coming out what that name is going to be very, very soon of the building, but it is anonymous donor. But people can go on, and all the donations and everything they put their name on in the building is in perpetuity, so it's not like 5 years we're going to find somebody else. But also we have on our website, on National Community Arts website, you can have a name a seat. Call it the Name a Seat program.
I love that.
And for about 3/4 of the theater is $1,000, and we have some of the balcony seats at $500. And you can have a name on a plaque on your arm of a chair.
Does that mean you can sit in that seat every time?
The answer to that is no, unless you're really lucky. So we've had that question a lot. So it's not your seat. But obviously, if you're going quick enough, because there's a show coming to town, and you could pick that seat, obviously, if it's available, you get it. If not, you have other people looking to see. And we have from people having their name, their company name, and quite a few in memory of somebody, memory of a friend, a family member maybe, that had passed, and that's one in memory of.
I have friends whose kids moved out of the area, and so they bought them each a seat to keep them connected to Nashua.
And
I like that.
And yes, we had, even on Facebook, like Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, and we
That's
had
a good
people
idea.
doing that. You'll be seeing things on Facebook, which I encourage everybody to like our Facebook page, the National
What is
Community
Nash-
Arts.
okay.
So they just went on and just did National Community Arts. They'll find it on Facebook, Instagram, or again, you can go to obviously our website. But if they look at Facebook, and we try to post some of the pictures you've seen of the construction going on. But you can do name a seats right on our website. There's a form. You can do it with a credit card right on our form, or you can print it out and send it. And again, though the seats are the only thing, it's for the life of the seat. But we're told the life of those seats, and these are going to be nice, comfortable theater seats like you find in any theater, even though the low level does retract. This is not an auditorium, and metal seats like you'd find in an old high school gym. These are going to be
Yeah.
a very comfortable, typical theater seat. And it'll be that name plaque it'll be there for a long time.
So what is the construction timeline at this point?
Yeah, the first thing everybody kind of quizzes us is, obviously you must be way behind and over budget, and quite the contrary. We're on budget and on schedule. I mentioned earlier we have a great team, and we're very lucky. Harvey Construction, who's the the construction manager, he was able to do all the locking in pricing and locking in the subcontractors just in time. I mean, the timing was so close. If we were doing it now or even 6
Yeah,
months
it'd be
ago,
crazy.
it would have been a lot harder to get the product and a lot more expensive. So we're on budget, and again, we're on schedule, which looking early fall, probably September of 2022 is our goal. And in what's going on in the world right now, things could change. But so far, we're again on schedule. It looks good to be open early fall.
So that's exciting.
It is, because a lot of people start asking, so who's going to be playing there, and what are you going to have, and it's still a little too early for that. But yeah, I'm at meetings every week, either on site or on Zoom with them, and the type of thing, the questions change. You're going from tearing down a building, which is kind of boring, to okay, now we're looking at seat numbering and look at the seats and the lighting and the acoustics, and we're starting to have those conversations at our weekly meetings, which really builds up the excitement. And again, spectacle is involved in every single aspect to make sure that everything is as perfect as we can plan it to be.
So how did you personally get involved in all of this?
I've been in real estate in Nashua since 1978, so been involved. I've had, I think, every job since high school in Nashua. My wife, grew up in Nashua, so a lot of Nashua ties. I live in Pelham personally, but again, my office is in Nashua, and own a couple of buildings, mixed-use buildings in downtown. One of them for about 25 years. So I've been involved in downtown in that respect, but then became involved in some of the committees. The Downtown Improvement Committee was one of them, in the committee before that. So I've been involved in helping things go on in downtown and helping as part of the Downtown Improvement Committee, anywhere from banners downtown and lighting, and we're very involved in when we change over the parking to the pay, the pan display. And one thing led to another, and the steering committee was put together by the mayor and the board of aldermen, which included both a few aldermen, it included people from city arts, from the arts community, from the chamber, and also the downtown improvement committee. So I was one of the members that came on the committee, which was something kind of cool. But unfortunately, after Brian McCarthy's passing, which was sudden, they needed a new chair of the committee, and I was it. So that just kind of steamrolled after that, and then became involved with National Community Arts as well. So I'm the president of that particular board. Steering committee doesn't meet as often. We still have decisions every few months that we have to make. So we're still, active, not as active as we were in the planning process. So I just think Nashua's awesome. Even though I don't physically live there, I have a daughter that lives in town. Like I said, we have a lot of ties there, and I just think downtown Nashua, even through the economy, 10
It's
years
changed
ago.
a lot in 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
it sure
for
has.
I know the arts community's been involved in helping a lot of that change, and I don't think people realize how unique Nashua is, that all of instead of going to one building to see art, it's installed all over the city so that we can interact with it every day. The sculpture symposium and the labyrinth. If people haven't been to the labyrinth, I highly recommend that.
Agreed.
It's so much fun. And the piano's even downtown, and then now this in the positive street art murals, and now this is an extension of all of that positive energy that's been going on downtown that we can interact with every day.
And we always joke that my wife and I, we're not in the arts, not into art or anything, because art, in my mind was art. It's something you would hang on a wall, and I learned with the mural, the nostalgic mural that's on the side of my building downtown, because in memory of the old theaters, the State Street and a lot of the theaters in that building, Positive Street Art came to us about doing that mural when the little shopping center in front of the church was put up, and that really kind of hit home. That mural really tells it all about, and learned about Positive Street Art, and started seeing and learning about all the other murals that we're doing, and then having a conversation with Mary Goyette about everything that she's done, and eyes opened up a lot over those few years, and what probably helped me get much more involved in realizing that the arts in Nashua, like you said, is so much more than I ever imagined and never knew about. So it's been
Well, I love
interesting.
how you put the lights on the side of the building too, so we see it all times of the day, and it just got another renovation, right? The mural.
Yes, we had a problem with just the brick is 100 years old, and we had a problem with the bottom 3 or 4 feet. That was just totally deteriorating, and we've had some issues with the lights on and off. It's a very intricate controlling system there. Right now they're down. They'll be back up very soon. But what was cool about that is it was the same time that was done as when that particular building, which is called the Chase Building, turned 100 years old. And we were just going to do a mural. And then we
So
said,
that was a couple years ago, or how?
probably about 3 years ago. And we said, well, we're going to light the mural. And we said, well, if we're going to light the mural, how about if we do some uplighting too? So the lighting of the mural is always white, but the up top, it's all controlled, which is what's complicated, on a cell phone. So if it's Valentine's Day, it's red. If it's Christmas, it's red and green.
That's fun.
So and again, it's like a piece of art in itself. And it makes you feel real good. We go by at night, I'm downtown eating dinner and so forth, and you go by and you're constantly seeing people getting their picture taken in front of the part of the mural, say we're Gone with the Wind is. Some people like to be goofy in front of the Three Stooges, but we've seen so many people taking pictures in front of that.
I love
makes you
that
feel
it's
good.
a nod to the black and white movies.
Yes.
That's what you were explaining. That's why it's all black and white and it's
Because
all different kinds of old
there was
movies.
a fire with the parking lot in the back of my building, and the theater, the last theater, burnt down, and so they just filled in the wall, and it said, okay, you made it a parking lot. But we learned more and more and did a lot of research into the old theaters that were there, and all the dates of the old theaters over the last 100 years are on that mural. You can go there and actually figure out a little history of what was going on in that building without anybody even telling you anything about it,
That's neat.
which is pretty cool.
So what do you see this Performing Arts Center doing to downtown?
You know, like I said a few minutes ago, that I didn't think I was, into the arts, but I find myself and my wife and I, or with our grandkids, we're at several concerts. We're at theaters in Boston, kids theaters or theaters for us. We're at so many things that is part of the arts. And I've never been into, say, the Wang Theater or any of the various theaters in Boston, or go up to Laconia and not going out to dinner.
Yep.
Not maybe go downtown Laconia or walk around Boston, hit a few shops, or have a drink after. Never have I not done that as well as going to it. So the fact that when somebody comes to see a show, the percentage is going to be extremely high that those people are going to get there early, maybe hit a couple shops. Again, whether they have dinner before, have dinner after, have drinks before and or after. They're talking right now, the estimate from the experts, the consultants that we hired very early on, and we hired one of the best consultants, web consultants, to design, shouldn't say not to design the Performing Arts Center, but to see about what the viability and the sustainability was for this. They estimate once it gets rolling after that first year, about $3.5 million in economic benefit to Nashua. And we're not talking just downtown. Obviously, downtown will get the biggest, probably bang for the buck, so to speak. But it's not just about downtown Nashua. This is going to spill out throughout Nashua. People that are coming from Massachusetts up to the show, they're probably down, Daniel the highway doing some shopping or eating, or coming down from Milford or
yeah, for
Wilton,
sure.
hitting 101A and doing
Definitely.
that. So, some people think, well, this is just about downtown. Downtown will see the biggest benefit, but I find this is going to be not.
It helps all of our tax base too.
It's going to affect the entire city and the
And
local
it
region.
affects all the people who live and work and support the downtown and Nashua in itself. So I know parking was kind of a concern, but you guys did a study on that too, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And the location is, right behind the parking garage is right behind
the
there.
back of the building, and not, a few steps away from where you can come in the back entrance on Garden Street. I mean, you could throw a baseball to the Elm Street parking garage. So it's right behind us. The High Street garage is also only a block away.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know all the street surface lots. After 5 o'clock, all those reserved parking spaces are open to the public to park. So there is plenty of parking. I know people always think you need to park right next to something, and it's just not that easy. And
No, when I go to the Capitol Center for the Arts or to Boston, I expect to walk in to get to the theater or wherever I'm going.
Yeah, that's it. When
Yeah.
I've gone, whether it's to Concord or going to Boston, you're not parking right next door.
No.
I mean, you're having a little walk, and I can assure you, I think the majority of our parking is going to be a lot closer than any of those places that you mentioned. So I'm not worried about that.
So one of the things that I thought was really neat with the building is it's going to be glass on the street level.
Yes.
And it's back to that us all interacting with the art all the time. So we'll be able to see art installations in the building. We'll be able to see people in the building coming and going, and you'll be interacting with people on this, the street and the building have kind of like this seamless transition between each other. And I like that too. It's
Yeah.
going to make it feel welcoming and
And I think it's a lot of times you drive by a restaurant and you look, kind of try to look inside, and if nobody's in there, you go, And unless you know the restaurant, you've been there, you sometimes wonder. I mean, we love the idea of being able to see what you just mentioned. You'll see the activity. You'll see
Yeah.
people in the lobby and say, gee, I want to go to a show there. On Main Street, with one of the first pictures, and I, again, encourage people to look at our website, you'll see some and more of these same
I'll
pictures.
put the link up.
That there's going to be an outside deck facing Main Street on the 3rd floor, I believe it is, that people can go out there and mingle. We're hoping to be able to have food and drinks there as well. But
Do you
that
think
outside,
you'll do any reserving of it for private groups
That'll
and
be up to
things?
spectacle management. I would say
Oh, okay.
more than likely, yes. A lot of times on certain shows, you do have groups, or even in the Garden Street area, we're hoping to be able to have maybe some small gatherings there in the back of the building. But I know that's in spectacles plans. There's still a lot of plans that are being discussed. But that'd be a great. I mean, that was something at the steering committee we said it was one of those almost must-haves, because seeing that kind of activity outside, up on a third floor level, overlooking Main Street will be great.
So in our final moments, what else would you like people to know?
No, time goes by fast. I just think, people need to know this is here. You don't have to drive to Boston to see a show. Granted, there's other venues that are a lot larger, and it's a different type of show. But this is a very common size of 750 seats that will get great performers like, say, Tupelo and Londonderry has. And some of the theaters in Massachusetts, we're a very similar size. So there's going to be some great performances. The entire symphony won't be there, but certain sections of the symphony will be able to play. We have, the head of the symphony is
Well,
on
there
our
are
board.
going to be TED Talks and
There'll be
things too.
There's TED Talks. You have those whole computer that you can go sit and watch people play computer, which I don't understand. There's so many new things. There'll be book signings. There'll be a wide variety of things, and
gonna
a
be
lot
great.
of for the young
And so,
children.
you
too.
want to tell them again your website?
Yes, it's NashuaCommunityArts.org, and please
Yeah.
take a look.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for
I
asking me.
personally am so excited about it. And we hope you'll join us again on the sharing room. Take care, everybody.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.